Hi, my name is Mike Wilson. I'm the president of Red Stick Lacrosse and of the Baton Rouge Mustangs. These are my kids, my helpers today. This is Alexander. He's a 4-year varsity starter for lacrosse here in Baton Rouge. This is my daughter Addison. She's a 12-year-old 5th grader, and she plays goalie for both boys and girls lacrosse. This is her twin brother Andrew, and he is a boys lacrosse player, middle school, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. The most basic piece of lacrosse is your lacrosse stick. A lacrosse stick can be different shapes, different sizes, depending upon your age level and how you play, but the basics are all the same. Every lacrosse stick has a head. This is the plastic part. This can actually be made out of wood, but for the most part, 99.99% of lacrosse sticks today are made of plastic. They have a plastic head. Then you have, this is the head, then you have the shaft. The shaft is usually made out of aluminum or some type of alloy, titanium or scandium. Sometimes they're made out of wood, but the shaft is what you hold on to. The shaft is how you actually kind of swing it around. Then you have on the bottom, this is called a butt end. You can't have a lacrosse stick without a butt end, and the reason is pretty simple. If you take the butt end off of a lacrosse stick, the end is very sharp. So it's a safety matter that every lacrosse stick has to have a butt end on it. This pocket is called a mesh pocket. Almost all pockets today are mesh pockets. Mesh pockets, I'm gonna hand me the ball, help you hold on to the ball. The most important thing you can do in lacrosse is hold on to the ball. What I'm doing right now is called cradling, and it's different depending upon how different your stick is. Your pocket doesn't have to be made out of mesh, but most of the sticks that you're gonna see today or see ever will look like this, and they'll have meshes. You'll also notice that I have some strings across the top here. These are called shooters, and what shooters do is they help the ball roll out of the pocket. If you didn't have shooters, depending upon how your stick was put together, the ball would come through and it would hit the top of your stick and it would go straight into the ground. Shooters kind of help the ball gradually go out of your stick. A lacrosse stick and a lacrosse head, if you want to think of it like anything else, is kind of like a baseball mitt that you throw with. And when you use a lacrosse stick properly, it's just an extension of your arm. So anytime you're throwing with a lacrosse stick, it's just like throwing a ball overhand. You just have a much longer arm. So now we're going to go into a couple other different sticks that we have here. This is the butterfly net. We're only allowed to have 2 of these on the field at a time, and these are held by the goalies. It's a bigger stick. Usually it's a little bit longer. My daughter is a youth player, so she has a shorter stick, but the stick can be longer, and the pocket, as you'll notice, and the head are much larger. And the reason is because when people are playing goalie, just like you play goalie in soccer or field hockey or hockey, field hockey. What's another goal? Soccer, that's the one I'm looking for. You need to keep the ball out of the net. So they get a bigger stick. We're only allowed to have 1 of these on the field at the time, and it has a nice deep pocket. Very, very big. It holds onto the ball, very good at absorbing powerful shots. We'll demonstrate you those shots a little bit later. The last stick that we have, this is called a defensive pole or a D pole. And you may notice it's very long. These poles can be up to 6 feet long, and they're used by defenders. We're allowed to have 4 of these at the middle school and high school level on the field at a time, and they are long so that you can reach your opponent without your opponent getting too close to you. At the high school level, they also are used, I'm sorry to say, to hit the other team when they have the ball. So if he were to have the ball, and I'm playing defense on him in middle school or high school, I'm trying to dislodge the ball by hitting his stick or his hands or even his elbow, and he's trying to stay away from me. And that's much easier with a much longer stick. If you're a youth player below 7th and 8th grade, you probably won't ever see a stick like this size in a game. But at the middle school level and the high school level, these are standard, and you'll have a third of your team will play with these, and these are purely for defense. Even though every once in a while, a kid will score with one of these are used primarily on defense. And those are the basics of sticks in lacrosse. This is Andrew. Name's on there. He's a 5th grade lacrosse player. He plays on the 6th grade and 8th grade teams. And I want to take you through his equipment. The most important part of equipment that he has on is his helmet. And as I said earlier, the thing that all these pads protect you from, for the most part, is the ball. Even though every once in a while you might get hit with a stick. Our helmets are different than football helmets. These are not helmets for collisions. These are helmets to protect you from the ball or from being hit every once in a while with a stick. Every lacrosse player, boys or girls, every level has to have a mouthpiece. You can't go on a lacrosse field at any level, no matter how old you are, without a mouthpiece. Everybody has to wear a mouthpiece, so that's why he has a mouthpiece. He also has shoulder pads on. Shoulder pads, you may notice, don't cover much of his shoulders. Really, just like in baseball has kind of become a thing, the number one thing that your shoulder pads actually protect is your heart. This in the center here is a heart pad, and it also covers his collarbone. Those are the 2 injuries that we worry about the most. And again, it's getting hit square in the chest with a ball, and it's stopping your heart. I've never heard of it actually happening in lacrosse. It has happened in baseball, but it's the number one thing we protect against from shoulder pads. It's getting hit with the ball heart. Boys also wear cups, which I cannot show you, but he has a cup on, believe it or not. Elbow pads are required for boys players as well. And just like I showed you, Alex, if you want to come in here and throw a check, no ball. You want to throw a check or two? Drew, if you want to cradle. So as he's being checked, which is my other son Alex trying to dislodge the ball, he may catch him in the elbow. And if he's got good pads on, it won't bother him at all. Same thing with gloves. So if he brings his hands in front of him, our gloves look a lot like hockey gloves. They're very protective. You can get hit on them all day long and you kind of won't feel it. Everything is to kind of protect the player, but nothing is really for collision. She has on her helmet, same thing, protection from the ball, protection from her stick. She also has a throat guard. So the throat guard is going to protect where her chest protector ends and her helmet begins. It covers her throat. Because she's a goalie, she stands directly between shooters and the goal. So people are trying to shoot the ball at her as fast as they can, and we're always trying to protect center mass on a lacrosse player. She's a girl, so she actually doesn't wear a cup. She has a different pad that goes across her pelvis that's part of her shoulder pads, or part of her chest protector. She's not required to wear shoulder pads, and in some leagues she's not required to wear elbow pads either. Goalies are very protected in youth lacrosse. They cannot be hit. So she doesn't really need any pads to protect her from other players. All the pads she wears protect the center of her body to protect her from the ball. She also has the large butterfly net of a lacrosse stick, and she has special gloves that are just like her brother's, but hers have reinforced thumbs. And the reason she has reinforced thumbs, as a shot comes in at youth level at 60 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour, and it hits her gloves, this reinforced thumb keeps her thumb from being compressed and possibly broken. When I played lacrosse as a younger man many, many years ago, we didn't have these, and many goalies ended up with broken thumbs because you would get hit on the thumb and it was the least protected part of your body. So now we have much better pads, so now everybody is protected. And those are the basics of goalie and boys lacrosse equipment. This is a standard lacrosse ball. It's what we call NOCSI certified, which means it's certified to be played with at every level of lacrosse, from our little tykes all the way up to the men's league. Sometimes it'll also be NCAA certified as well. It's a solid rubber ball. And again, it's the most dangerous thing on a lacrosse field. It's heavy, and he's gonna show you. Basically, he's cradling, holding on to the ball. Here you go. I also have two other types of lacrosse balls. One is called a pinky, and although this one is orange for some unknown reason, we call these pinkies because these are the balls that we give a lot of our beginners and our youngest kids. It's about half the weight of a normal lacrosse ball. It's the same size, but it's actually spongy. So if you get hit with this, whether you're wearing pads or not, it will not hurt very much. It can still hurt a little bit, but it's lighter, so it's a little bit harder for an older kid to play with. This third ball is called a swag-slax ball. And a swag-slax ball is kind of like a beanie bag, as it's got little pellets inside. It's the same weight as a regulation lacrosse ball, but it's safe to kind of practice with in your house or in your backyard or around other people, in that it's squishy. So it feels just like a regular lacrosse ball in his stick, but when he throws it at the ground, it doesn't really bounce. It's a dead ball. So that's a really good ball to have around the house to practice with. We'll show you some of the things that you'll be practicing later as far as cradling and throwing the ball around. It's great because it's not like a regular lacrosse ball, which bounces a lot. And if your house is like my house and they break windows, swag-slax balls don't bounce, so they don't bounce over walls and off of everything. They just kind of land with a thud and stay flat. So we really like our beginners to use either a swag-slax ball or a pinky to get started. In lacrosse, the basic skill that you have to have at any given time, no matter what level you play, boys, girls, from a 5-year-old up to an old man, is cradling. And what cradling is the equivalent of dribbling a basketball. Cradling is how we hold on to the ball. Guys, you want to do a low cradle? This is a nice, easy low cradle. This is the first cradle every lacrosse player learns. Boys, girls, it doesn't matter what age you are when you start to play. This is a basic low cradle. The two basic cradles that we use at any level are the low cradle and then the high cradle. The motion's a little bit different, and today we're really just going to focus on the low cradle. So if you guys could kind of show them the low cradle. You can do it at varying speeds. You can do it with your right hand or your left hand, but it's the equivalent of dribbling a basketball. If you're holding a lacrosse ball, you've got to cradle it. The same way if you're holding a basketball, you have to dribble it. You can't move with a lacrosse ball unless you're cradling the ball. Cradling is just like dribbling a basketball. If you try to run around, you're not cradling the ball, and people are trying to take it away from you, you will drop the ball. So go ahead and show them. The ball will pop out of your stick. Now, if you are cradling a ball while you're running, and there are a bunch of different ways to cradle, he can hold on to the ball forever. He can be chased by an entire team. He has been chased by an entire team while he cradles the ball. And if he's cradling it strong enough, if he's got the proper technique and the proper form, he will not drop the ball. This is very frustrating to the other team, but it's the fundamental skill in lacrosse. And to cradle, it's really quite simple. You get the ball, you drop it into your pocket. You put you put the stick on the fingertips of your top hand. Usually, if you're right-handed, and I'm right-handed, your right hand is going to be at the top of your stick, just below the plastic of your head. Your second hand, which is my left hand, will be at the bottom of the stick, and it will cover up the butt end just a little bit. Your bottom hand is loose. You're going to make almost like an O, and the stick is going to rotate inside that O. Your top hand, as the stick rests on your fingertips, you're going to make a big, wide C motion with your stick. You're going to do almost like you're lifting weights. You're going to curl it up. You may notice that my left arm stays in the same place and is barely holding my stick. I can do this and have done this for hours on end. This is just like dribbling a basketball. You want to be able to pick up a lacrosse stick and instinctively, every time you touch the ball, start doing this at some level. As long as you're doing this, someone could push you, they could hit your stick, they could hit your elbow, you will hold on to the ball. If you're not doing that and you're running around, eventually the ball will pop out of your stick. Another cradle that we do is also a high cradle. And a high cradle is a little bit different in that my top hand controls the low cradle. With a high cradle, which is one that we use a lot in competitive lacrosse, your bottom hand does the work. It has a tight grip on your stick, and now my right hand is now the loose hand, and I am rocking the ball back and forth. This position is really important in lacrosse because it's called the triple threat position. There are three things that we do in lacrosse when we have the ball. The first one is, she doesn't know. The first one is we can pass the ball, so I can throw the ball to you. The second thing is I can run with the ball. I can take off and go with the ball. And the third thing is everybody's most favorite thing is I can shoot the ball. And that's why we call this the triple threat. Everything that you're going to do in lacrosse offensively is out of this position. The ball is up high, I can pass, I can run, or I can shoot. And we'll show you all of these put together a little bit later in the video. Next to cradling, the next most important thing, especially at the youth level, is picking up the ball. We're going to throw the ball around a lot, and it's going to end up on the ground most of the time. So just like a loose ball in basketball or a ground ball in baseball, we have to learn how to pick the ball up. And at every level of lacrosse, kids who can pick up the ball, men who can pick up the ball, stay on the field. If this is a skill that you master, this is a skill that translates to every level of lacrosse. So it's not really a skill that you can live without, but it's one that if this is the only thing you can do in lacrosse, you'll be on every team you ever try out for because it's that important. So he's squatting down, getting low, and the reason you want to get low is because in lacrosse, nobody is allowed to hit you from behind. So as long as he gets his head over the ball and he is leaning down for the ball, he's kind of in the best possible position to pick it up. He's going to then scoop the ball, and when we say scoop the ball, you actually don't use your hands to pick it up. You're actually going to move forward and let the ball roll into your stick. You actually don't use your arms at all. You kind of stay in a fixed position. And the third part of that is the sniff. There are different ways to pick up the ball that are fancy and flashy, where you can do them one-handed and flip the ball up to yourself, but this one always works. It's always reliable, and it is the safest way to do it. So my youngest son here has been playing for 4 years now, 5 years. He's developed some bad habits, right? So one of those bad habits, put the ball down, he picked the ball up one-handed. While that's okay in high school, we don't let our youth players do that. And the reason is pretty simple. Put the ball out, try to pick it up one-handed again. That's why we don't pick up the ball one-handed, because it's harder to do when somebody else is trying to get the ball. If you pick it up the proper way, I now can't get to the ball to knock the ball free, if you can kind of see that. The second thing he did that is actually illegal in girls lacrosse and frowned upon severely in boys lacrosse is he did what's called raking the ball. Rake the ball, Andrew? So that move right there is completely illegal in girls lacrosse. They're not allowed to do it in any way, shape, or form. And in boys lacrosse, we don't do it for a very simple reason. Roll the ball out. If you, normally in lacrosse, you want to keep moving forward at all times. You never want to stop. If you rake the ball, you're stopping, and you're letting the defender catch up with you. So instead of raking the ball, pick it up and run right past it. We want to scoop it and run right past the defender. When we rake the ball, you stop your momentum and you come to a complete stop. When you come to a complete stop, you give the defender a target to knock the ball free. In the Renegade ground ball drill, we practice all the skills we just did. We kind of roll them all together with a little bit of conditioning. This is a good way for coaches to put conditioning into a practice. It's a good way for you to get some conditioning at home when you do this with a partner. I'm going to roll the ball out about 3 to 5 yards. He's going to get down, he's going to pick it up with good fundamentals. He's going to scoop it, he's going to throw it back to me, run around me, and he's going to keep doing it for 30 seconds. It's a really simple drill, but when you run it a lot, it can really help develop your lungs and develop your form as well. So are you guys ready? 3 to 5 yards. Andrew, you want to be on, it doesn't matter which side. You ready? All right, let's go. Here's your help. Here's your help. Here's your help. Here's your help. One of the things that this simulates is, as you pick up balls in the lacrosse game, it gets progressively harder as the game goes along because you get more and more tired. So as we run this drill, we normally run it for 30 seconds, but I've seen coaches run this for as long as 2 minutes. Your arms get heavier, your legs get heavier, your form gets worse. It really focuses you and makes you really stress the fundamentals, right? We really want you to focus on how you're getting down, how you're picking the ball up, how you're getting your hands up, and how you're passing. It's a great way to get a little bit of conditioning in and also work on your fundamentals. We love to run this drill every single youth practice that we do. They do it at a lot of high school practices as well. It's just a great fundamentals drill, and it's a great way to get some conditioning in anytime that you need it. Anytime you have a partner, sometimes you may have a friend or a brother or a sister who doesn't play lacrosse, they can have a baseball mitt or a softball mitt. They can catch the ball and roll it out with their hand, and it's just the same. Also, some guys will do this by themselves. Well, they'll get the ball here, they'll roll it out, they'll pick it up, they'll run back around a cone or to a spot, they'll roll it out again. Again, anything that you can learn to do a little bit winded, a little bit tired, the reality is when you play any sport, you've got to learn to fight through being a little bit fatigued. Everybody starts off at this high level with energy, but the reality is second half, fourth quarter, everybody's tired, everybody's run down, but we have to keep our fundamentals. And this is a drill that really helps push those fundamentals and push the conditioning. One of the fundamental skills in lacrosse that you have to master at every level is throwing a lacrosse ball. And throwing a lacrosse ball is no different than throwing a ball with your arm. Think of your lacrosse stick, no matter how big it is, no matter what your age is, as an extension of your arm. And the mechanical motion of throwing a ball is just the same with a lacrosse stick as it is with your hand. The only difference is this is an extension of your arm and your arm is longer. So we start with some basics. We never point our toes towards where we're going to throw the ball. We always want to have almost a baseball player stance where we're throwing across our body. So his toes are actually pointed perpendicular to where he wants the ball to go. The other thing that we're going to do is that we're going to get our hands up high. We want this stick to be at a 45-degree angle. I'm actually wearing a watch. Most kids don't. What we like to teach kids is read your watch. You want to get your watch in front of your nose, which means get his wrist up in front around his nose. We want to get our stick at about a 45-degree angle, or at least above our shoulder. And the reason is this: if we don't do that and our stick is flat or below flat, the ball can roll out the end before we have a chance to throw it. So we'll always start with set your feet, read your watch, reach up, and then you're going to follow through just like you're throwing a ball with your hand, but with a lacrosse ball, and follow through. So he didn't step into his throw. He's going to step into the next one, throwing the ball back. So, just like a baseball swing, he's going to pivot his hips into his throw. So even though his feet don't start out pointing at his target, his feet are going to turn to his target as he throws the ball. So there you go. Exaggerate it, bring it up nice and high. Read your watch, stick up, follow through. You'll also see that he's picking up his front foot almost like a baseball pitcher, and he's stepping towards his target. There you go, a couple more. So he's been playing lacrosse for about 8 years. So you'll see him doing a few things we haven't really talked about. He can't keep his hands still. So he's cradling the ball like crazy because to him, it's just like when you're playing basketball, it's unnatural unless you're shooting free throws to not dribble the ball before you shoot. Same thing in lacrosse. It's unnatural for him not to cradle the ball before he passes it. And the reason he's cradling the ball before he passes it is he feels the weight of the ball in his stick. That's how he knows it's in the right place. Go ahead. And he follows through. Now, one thing that every good or great lacrosse player knows, and one thing that we start teaching kids now when they're 5 and 6 years old is is everything you do with your right hand in lacrosse, if you're right-handed, you need to be able to do with your left hand. So we try to teach kids this as young as we possibly can. So he can actually do the exact same thing with his left hand. So we always want to keep the ball away from the defender. So whether that's left side, or if he needs to switch it up and move it to his right side, he wants to be able to throw with either hand. Imagine how effective Steph Curry could be if he could shoot three-pointers with his left hand and his right hand. He probably actually is one of the few players in the NBA who can do that. I know for quarterbacks in the NFL, a guy like Patrick Mahomes, he can actually throw a football with both hands. It's invaluable when you go to your left or your right and they don't know which hand you're going to use to pass or shoot with. So we try to teach that to kids as young as possible. So I would encourage all of you at home, use your left hand and your right hand to practice cradling and throwing. The more diverse you are in your skill set, being ambidextrous as a lacrosse player comes in handy because, again, you're always either moving left or right. Every skill that we've gone over today, as difficult as it may seem right now, think about how much harder it's going to be because everything we do in lacrosse is basically done while running. So right now we're standing still and we're trying to pass with our left or pass with our right hand. But in reality is in the game, he may be running full speed or close to it and have to switch from his right hand to his left hand to shoot, or his left hand to his right hand to make a pass. So everything we do, everything we practice in lacrosse, we try to practice with both hands. So right now, the drill these two are going to do is what we call push and pull. And push and pull is done from about 8 yards to 10 yards. And what they're going to do is basically, they're going to turn their bodies so they're facing sideways. And they're basically going to try to throw the ball as close to each other as possible, back and forth as quickly as possible. So stick up, Drew, good form. Let's step into our throws. Lacrosse is all about repetition. The more times you do an action, the more you don't have to think about it. The push and pull drill is something, if you have somebody to throw with, is a great drill. You can do it for 10 minutes, 5 minutes a day. You can do it for an hour if you can. But the more you do it, the less you have to think about the mechanics of you throwing and catching the ball. They've been playing for 4 or 5 years and they're not perfect. They still miss, they still drop, right? But just the repetition, just getting oh, look at that, he dropped the ball. The reps of throwing the ball back and forth at close distance helps them practice throwing and helps them practice catching. Most of our teams in general, we start with this drill at the beginning of every practice. Everybody warms up and they warm up the same way. They throw the ball back and forth. A lot of times with our high schoolers, our boys and our girls, they're throwing the ball left-handed and right-handed. A lot of times they'll do it while on the run because, again, everything we do in lacrosse, eventually we do in a game and we do it on the run. We're almost never standing still. But this is a good skill to practice. It's a good thing to practice if you can do it in your backyard with a friend or with a brother or a sister. If they're not a lacrosse player and they've got a baseball glove or a softball glove, they can catch it and throw it back to you just like they would a baseball, and it's just the same. But for us, it's just about getting the time in and putting in the reps. Something else that you can do is, if you have a wall nearby, you can throw the ball to yourself off of a wall. If you have a brick wall, that is, don't want to throw it off of mom and dad's siding. Or if you have what we call a rebounder, which is basically a pitchback for baseball, but a little bit higher, you can throw the ball off of that. And it's just about getting the reps in. It's just about getting in, 100 throws a day with your right hand, 100 throws a day with your left hand. You don't have to do that, but the more reps you get in, the better you'll be. So the skill we're going to go over right now is basic catching a lacrosse ball. The thing I always like to describe it as is an egg toss. Some of you might not be old enough to know what an egg toss is. Maybe you've been to a fair or you've had a play day at school and you had to throw an egg across a field. And the most important thing with an egg toss is to do what? You got to keep your hands soft, right? Because if you snatch an egg out of the air, right, the egg breaks, right? So what we want to do with a lacrosse stick is have what we like to call soft hands. So as the ball comes in, we want to reach for the ball and we want to give with the ball so that we're not really batting at the ball. And the reason is this. Even though lacrosse pocket, the ball kind of hangs down and it's easy to hold on to the ball, it's basically a baggy tennis racket. So if you try to snatch the ball, this pocket is actually pretty hard. It'll bounce out. And the way that we fix that, the way that we get around that is we have soft hands. We give when the ball comes in. Ball comes in, we let our hands come back. You may also notice I'm trying to keep the exact same form that I was using in the throwing drill. The only difference is, take a couple steps back, I'm in the position I would be when I finish throwing the ball. I'm reaching and my hands are up so that when the ball comes in, I can bring them back. So I reach back to throw, and then I'm immediately here. My knees are bent, my feet are basically perpendicular, and I'm trying to have soft hands. I'm trying to give as the ball comes in. You heard me say it earlier, and I'll say it again. The position we want to be in is that triple threat position. I want to catch the ball and immediately be able to bring it back so that the defense or whoever I'm playing with doesn't know what I'm going to do next. I can run from this position, I can pass from this position, or I can rear back and I can shoot from this position. And that's really what we want to do. We want to stay in that same basic position whether we're throwing or catching. The only difference when we catch the ball is that we want to reach out for the ball and have soft hands. And just like we emphasized with throwing the ball, we want to be able to do it with our left hand and our right hand. Notice I'll switch from my left to my right, from my right to my left. And for beginners, the number one rule is to keep your butt end of your stick pointed at the ground. We do not want to catch the ball like this. Your inclination will always be to have your stick out and to catch it like a basket. It's not a basket. You want to catch the ball with the stick pointed at the ground. So Alex, I'm going to use you as a guinea pig as to why not to catch it like a basket. You ready? That's why you don't catch it as a basket. If your stick is extended away from your body, whether it's boys lacrosse, girls lacrosse, pee-wee lacrosse, if your stick is extended away from your body, you can knock the other person's stick down and take the ball away. But if you catch it in the triple threat position, the ball's automatically protected. At the higher levels, what we teach our kids in middle school and in high school is we always want to give the defense shoulder, shoulder, stick. That means for me to get to the ball, I have to go past one shoulder, two shoulders, and then go for his stick. So now if I'm trying to play defense, and we're not really going to talk that much about defense, but if he catches that ball and I try to come get it from him, I have to decide which side do I go to. If I go this way, he goes that way. If we come back and I go behind him to get the ball, he's getting away from me. So it's always important to have soft hands and to get the ball back in that triple threat position so the ball is defended and you don't have to worry about it being in this position when you catch it and somebody knocking the ball away. So that's the basics of catching lacrosse ball. So we're about to do a shooting drill, and I want to explain to you, this is lacrosse goal. A full-size lacrosse goal is 6 feet by 6 feet. It doesn't matter if we're playing a pee-wee lacrosse game or a professional lacrosse game. Full-size lacrosse goal, boys, girls, men, women, it doesn't matter, it's 6 feet by 6 feet. Normally what we have around a lacrosse goal is called a crease. It's a little bit bigger for the men's game than it is for the women's game, but the crease is an area where only the goalie can go in. Nobody else can go in that area, and it keeps the goalie safe. So You can have a player who's 6'10" and shoots 100 miles an hour, and you can have a 4-foot tall goalie. That 6'10" player can't come inside the crease. So no matter how hard they want to shoot the ball, they have to do it outside of the crease. There are some different rules at the high school level and the college level and the pro level where players are allowed to shoot and land in the crease, but at the youth level below high school, it's completely not allowed. So really what I want you guys to take away from that is generally, unless you're a peewee, unless you're 5 or 6 years old, you're gonna be shooting on a goal this size. It's 6 feet by 6 feet. If you have a wall at your house or your neighborhood park, you can take some chalk and draw on a wall a 6 by 6 foot box and practice your shooting, because that'll be your goal size. If you're not trying to put the ball through the goalie, you're trying to shoot the ball around the goalie. And ultimately the point of lacrosse is to hold on to the ball and to put the ball in the back of the net. What we're gonna do right now is we're gonna show you some basic form for shooting, then we're gonna show you how a goalie actually makes saves, and we're gonna show you all the skills we've kind of shown you today, all put together, picking up the ball, passing, shooting, and scoring goals. So here we go. Triple threat position, just like we talked about before, right? The biggest difference is when we pass the ball, we're going for accuracy. We want accuracy when we shoot as well, but this is where he's really gonna reach back as far as he can. He's gonna tuck his chin into his shoulder. He's gonna point that front toe, and he's gonna lean back on his back leg. He's really gonna put all of he's got into it, just like a pitcher would, right? If you're using a baseball analogy, you're throwing the ball to first base as best you can, right? Maybe 60 miles an hour. He can probably reach 80, 85 miles an hour on a shot. But more important than how fast he shoots it is where he shoots it. The best place to shoot it is the corners, because that's where the goalie's not gonna be. So if you wanna let a couple rip, at the youth level, we teach almost everybody we have to shoot the ball and bounce it on the ground. And the reason is this: when you bounce the ball, the goalie has to drop down to block it. And when the ball bounces, they're down low and the ball bounces up high. So it's the most basic shot that we use. And it's used from 5 and 6 year olds all the way through professionals and masters. It works at every single level. There's a couple of different shots, but that's the most basic one, and that's the one he's gonna show you right now. He's gonna take a couple bounce shots. So notice, it bounced low and it went up to the top corner of the goal. Another shot that we use a lot in lacrosse, and the one that's actually the most comfortable and most natural, but is the least accurate, is a sidearm shot. All of his shots till now have been strictly almost directly overhand, because those are the most accurate shots. Just like when you throw a baseball, if you throw it overhand, wherever your hand points, the ball's gonna go. Same thing for a lacrosse stick. Wherever your lacrosse stick finishes pointing, that's where it's gonna go. He's gonna step towards his target, and wherever he points that stick, that's where the ball's gonna go. With a sidearm shot or an underhand shot, it's a lot more natural mechanically, so you get some more power out of it, but you trade that power for accuracy. And it's a harder shot to block, and it's a more powerful shot, but it's also much more likely to end up in the woods over there. So take a couple of sidearm shots, just let it cut loose. So he hit all of these because he's shooting from inside of 15 feet. In reality, he's an attackman, so he usually shoots actually closer to the goal than this. But when you normally would take this shot sidearm, you would be back a good 15, maybe 20 yards away from the goal. And you're trying to get as much speed on the shot as you possibly can. What we're gonna do next is show you the goalie's part in this and how much harder it gets when there's somebody actually trying to stop your shots. All right, aim high, guys. Good shot. Off target, last one. Good save. So as you can see, it's a lot harder to score a goal when there's somebody standing in the net as good as Dee Dee trying to stop the ball. We are lucky enough to have her in our family, and she plays for both boys and girls lacrosse teams, and she's tough on both the boys and the girls. But as you saw, she can use any part of her body to block a ball. She kicked a few, I think took one off the shin, had a bunch in her stick. A lot of goalies will not be able to react in time, and they'll catch them off the chest protector. But that's the basics of how a goalie plays goal and how we shoot the ball. What we're gonna do now is just basic general overall lacrosse. We're gonna put it all together. We're gonna pick up some balls. We're gonna make some passes, and we're gonna take some shots. You guys ready? Let's do it. So one of the things we're gonna demonstrate lastly is in lacrosse, you can actually go behind the goal. So it's a little bit different than a game like soccer or basketball. The field is really, really big, and the goals don't sit on the end line. So right now, I'm gonna let him do what he does best, which is attack the goal from behind, and I'm gonna feed him the ball. So here we go. Hug that pipe, Dee. Good block. Ball's behind. Good shot. We really hope that you guys enjoyed our video today, and we hope to see you guys on the field in the fall or in the spring this year. Thank you very much.